This is Our View, the workers' voice of Washington. A recent visitor to Washington was Ohio Congressman Dennis Kucinich. He outlined the difficulty of getting anything through the Congress because of conflicting values and a financial system stacked against workers.
People are saying, anytime you come up with this kind of an idea, when you talk about universal pre-kindergarten, when you talk about college education for all, first question in Washington, how are you going to pay for it? They never ask that question when it comes to war. They never ask that question when it comes to bailing out Wall Street. They never asked that question when it came to the Bush tax cuts. $1 trillion to the top, most of it to the top 1%. They never asked that question. They only ask that when it comes to meeting the social and economic needs of our people. It's time for us in America to look at a new kind of reform, and that is a fundamental reform to our monetary system itself. Hear this. Why in the world does a sovereign nation, the United States of America, the greatest country on this planet, why do we need to be supplicants to banks? Why can't we have the Federal Reserve being able to print money created out of nothing through a function called quantitative easing? They give that money to banks who then park it at the Federal Reserve and gain interest on it, don't lend the money to businesses so they can hire. Why, when in our Constitution, under Article 1, Section 8, with Congress having the power to create money, why in the world would we say, well, we cannot invest in our country, we cannot rebuild America, we cannot meet the $3 trillion in infrastructure needs that haven't been met, we cannot educate our children, we cannot have health care for our people, we can't have retirement security because we can't afford it, and yet we're borrowing money from banks. It is time for us to reform our monetary system and to get back the constitutional power that we had at the founding of this nation so that we can have the ability to invest in America, to create the jobs, to rebuild our infrastructure, to have the educational benefits for our children, to have health care for all. I tell you, this is a fundamental flaw in our society. It is a fault line that runs very deep that says that we can't have any control over our monetary policy, which means we have no control over our destiny. It is time for the labor movement to lead a new effort to make sure that we can reclaim our ability to invest in America, to create the jobs, to protect our retirement security, to have education for our children, and that means that the government has to reclaim the ability to be able to invest in our own country and not have to rely on banks who are driving this country down. It is time that we stood up.
The goals of diversity are alive in the labor movement, very important today because there are those who want to set us against each other while they take the country's resources.
The Diversity Committee promotes union solidarity and a united labor movement for all, while respecting our individual, unique differences. Just look at all of us, how beautiful we are in this room. Seriously. But we all are beautiful in who we are. Valuing race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, social and economic status, age, physical abilities, and religious and political beliefs. Now, I think that if we come together and work as a team, and as our one thing said today is working as one, we can all make this happen. We have to stop looking at our differences and pointing them out. That's how they've been able to divide us in the past. Right now, we're under attack. And if we continue to let these differences divide us, we'll all fail. They're taking away all of the things that we gained in the past on Martin Luther King, on the gentleman that Betsy put forth. All of them will lose if we don't come together as one America, all Americans, no matter who and what we are. Now, what I think we can do that through is through educating and communicating. We need to have open and honest communication between one another. There have been hurts in the past. We've got to realize those hurts. Bring it to the forefront and said, we know that's happened. Let's work together here in the present and push it beyond, and let's go forth and make it a better place for all of us. If we don't do that, we'll all lose. Look at Washington, D.C., what they're doing. They're not letting us get more money. They're trying to take money from us every day of our lives. And they're saying it over and over, and we're just sitting here. We're doing nothing. We're sitting on our hands. If we don't get up and move, we'll have nothing. We'll be back like they were in the Depression era. So it's up to all of us in this room.
In Israel, there is no apology for being union and taking action, and that includes the nation's doctors who recently went on strike.
As part of the Israeli Medical Association, we are part of a professional struggle with the government. Since 1976, no adjustment to population growth was made. In 1976, we had 3.5 million people in Israel. Today we have 7.7. The hospitals are full with patients, but there are no more doctors to treat them. Today, medicine gets only 7.7% of the gross national product. In similar countries in Europe, the average is 9.5 to 10% of the gross national product. We demand the government to make this adjustment, which is in money means $2 to $3 billion additional every year for the medical system. In the US, the medical system is not the public one. The majority of the excellence centers are based on private medicine, which is not our system. So we look to Europe, where public medicine is the common practice of medicine, and we demand similar resources.
We're losing our doctors that they go abroad. We have doctors that are going to the private sector, and the way that we can attract them and train them is, first of all, taking care about their salaries, but we also think that we have to invest in doctors in the peripheral, in the north and in the south. About 2 months ago, we started by saying that if we don't get moving in the negotiations, we will have to take industrial actions, basically strike. About a month and a half ago we started. What we do is we do it very, very well, as little as we can, because we obviously don't want to hurt the patients. So in all the hospitals we stopped the work for the couple of hours that they should be able to come out here and demonstrate. Doctors don't like to strike. They feel very, very bad about the idea that they have to leave their patients and strike. And they also are not the most affected by the fact that they see to it that nobody gets permanently hurt. So sometimes we feel that the employers and the government doesn't pay too much attention because it relies on the fact that the doctors have their Hippocratic oath and they try not to hurt the patients.
כיוון שבמקום לכבות את השריפה המשתוללת במערכת הבריאות, משרד האוצר ממשיך לעסוק בספינים. המאבק הזה הוא בעצם מאבק על דמותה של החברה הישראלית, על השאלה באיזה מקום אנחנו רוצים לחיות, איך אנחנו רוצים שיראו בתי החולים שלנו.
Ross Reader's history subject this month is labor history.
We pause a few moments this month in order to consider a very serious issue, the reason for the existence of this section of our view. Put in the vernacular, why bother to look at labor history at all? We're in the 21st century. Some of us, old enough as we are, have a sense of uneasiness. All we've known about, all we've read about and heard about, that was all last century. For reasons that would take far too long to discuss here, we live in a culture unconcerned about historical sense, a long view of any particular struggle. When I look at labor history events whose anniversaries land in the month of October, I sense déjà vu. We are in a world faced with globalization of corporations and capital. On the 3rd of October in 1915, a World Federation of Trade Unions was formed. 21 years ago, I attended meetings in Moscow in something called then the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The 2001 meeting, by the way, was held about the same time as the annual conference of the Pacific Northwest Labor History Association last June in Vancouver. The International Labor Organization, ILO, an affiliate of the old League of Nations, held its first meeting in Washington, D.C. in October 1919. Along with the ILO, another organization survives, the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions, formed in the 1940s to exclude some of the leftist unions in the WFTU. The point is that efforts to face international worker concerns have been going on quietly almost a century. Also commemorated in October is the 82nd anniversary of the first US of A National Conference of Trade Union Women. In another month, in 1974, the Coalition of Trade Union Women, CLU, was formed. Added to your sense of history that even before the founding of CLU, or the first National Conference of Trade Union Women, the struggle to improve the human, civil, and workplace rights of women workers had been in existence. An axiom I often use when talking to groups about labor history is, what we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. Honestly, I don't want to believe it, but I prefer that we will learn from history if for only because to repeat it is just too much for any grown person to face. But we have to avail ourselves of the knowledge of our own past, or as a folk singer buddy put it once, life will become just like a cul-de-sac, if you know what I mean.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the members of the Washington Federation of State Employees, who remind you that when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching.